My name is Rachel Hagemeyer, President and CEO of the Canton Symphony Orchestra. Welcome to our podcast, Orchestrating Change. Today on our podcast, we have Roger Kalia with me here in Canton, Ohio, who is conducting our concert that is tomorrow when we're recording, which has probably happened a couple weeks ago when this comes out. Roger, you are music director many places, a couple in Indiana, one in California. Somewhere else I'm probably forgetting. But thank you so much for being with me today. Yeah. And is there any little things you want to introduce about yourself? Just a little snapshot of who you are so that people can get to know you a little bit.
Yeah, well, it's great to be here. Thank you so much. As you mentioned, music director in Evansville, Terre Haute, Indiana, and then Orchestra Santa Monica in Southern California, which is always nice to escape to during the winter months, especially.
That was a good strategic move on your part.
Yes. And then actually during the summer, I conduct up in Lake George, New York, which is an upstate New York.
That's also a great strategic move.
Yeah, the Lake George Music Festival.
Nice.
And just beautiful. It's in the Adirondack Mountains, so it's one of those places, just a beautiful place to vacation and escape.
It's a great, that whole area is one of my favorites.
Yeah. And my background is that I grew up in New York, Manhasset, New York, town on Long Island.
Okay.
And come from a family of no musicians.
Cool.
None. I'm an only child. Mom and dad weren't into music. When I say weren't into it, they listened to music, but they didn't play an instrument. They weren't trained as musicians, but they appreciate music. And, as a child, I would say it was a normal upbringing. I was into sports and a little bit of everything. And it was my grandpa who had a lot of jazz records, I should say.
Cool.
And it was an album, actually, a Louis Armstrong album that made me want to pursue the trumpet.
Okay,
and
cool.
I started the trumpet as every kid does in fourth grade in New York. And I played in all the groups. I played in band, I played in the jazz ensemble, the brass choir, you name it. I was doing it. Marching band in high school, of course. And I really enjoyed it. But at the same time, I was doing other things like playing sports. I was really into basketball at the time.
Okay, fun.
And it wasn't until my junior year, really, where I said, music is for me. This is what I want to do with my life.
Yeah.
And I would say it was two things. It was a trip to see the New York Philharmonic.
Okay.
A band trip. We were going to go to an open rehearsal, and it was incredible. It was.
What were they playing? Do you remember?
Yes, it was Stravinsky's "The Rite of Spring."
Okay, fun.
Which is, I knew nothing about this piece.
Yeah.
And it was a first for me. I was like, whoa, orchestras can play this type of music, which is so kind of disjointed, heavy metal of classical music in a way. But it was incredible. And Zubin Mehta, the famous conductor, was on the podium, and I was just enamored with the way he moved and his gestures. He really projected so much energy and excitement and passion, and I love that.
Oh my gosh.
And sitting in the back of the section, as a trumpet player, it gets a little lonely sometimes. And I was always more of a kind of, I like being around people. And I thought it could be interesting to see what a conductor does and bringing people together. And then the second thing was a youth orchestra tour, actually, the Metropolitan Youth Orchestra of New York. I joined going into my junior year. So this was the summer of 2001, June 2001. We had an opportunity to tour China.
Oh,
7 different cities. It's just an incredible opportunity for a high school kid.
That's I've been to China. I went to China in college.
Did you?
I only went to 3 cities, not 7.
Yeah, no, but still.
It's
an amazing place. And the concert halls we performed in were just beautiful and really appreciative audiences. And it was there. The youth orchestra conductor was extremely inspiring. I'll never forget his artistry, the way he moved. I had a great band director, but he was very metronomic, and it was kind of like militaristic, if you will.
Yeah.
He was wonderful, but this conductor, Scott Stickley, was just so artistic, and it really inspired me to say, this might be something I want to do down the road.
Yeah.
And sure enough, went to school for trumpet and music education. I was a double major, jazz minor. I really enjoyed jazz. Like I said, the Louis Armstrong thing. Went to the State University of New York at Potsdam. It's an upstate New York, Crane School of Music, big music education school. So a lot of the music teachers in New York have a degree from there.
Okay.
And wanted to be a band director. And At that time, though, I still had the conducting bug planted in my my head. The seed was planted.
Yeah.
So, when you take Conducting 101, and it was, I really enjoyed it. It was sophomore year. I took it. A lot of my colleagues said, this is something I could tell you're very passionate about. You should pursue this. And I ended up assisting our orchestra director at the time at the school, and I was covering rehearsals and learning how to study scores. And my first gig was conducting a musical, if you can believe it.
Which musical?
How to Succeed in Business Without
fun.
Even Trying.
That's
a fun one.
That's a fun one.
So it was so much fun.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it. And from that experience, I said, I think I can do this.
Yeah.
And then, the rest is history. I signed up for music festivals and workshops and ended up pursuing a degree in conducting at the University of Houston.
Okay.
And then I went to Indiana University for my doctorate and had some amazing mentors who I still keep in touch with. And it led to a lot of different kind of assistantships and opportunities. And my first major job was with the Charlotte Symphony as their assistant conductor.
Cool.
And then
Lots of cool things happening in Charlotte.
Yeah,
They're a great
I
orchestra.
really appreciate the kind of things they're doing. And they've always been about that.
Yeah.
And also having an opportunity to be a music director at a young age. During my doctorate, there was an opportunity to be the music director of the Young Musicians Foundation Debut Orchestra of Los Angeles, which is a pre-professional training orchestra. So kind of like a Chicago Civic or a New World Symphony. These were a group of musicians who were college age grad students looking to pursue a professional career. But it was right before they applied for those opportunities. And I had the opportunity. I got to program a full season. I got to do outreach. I got to, learn what it takes to be a music director. And being in LA, what a different world that was. Oh my, got to meet John Williams and did a concert with Jack Black of Stravinsky, The Soldier's Tale. So all these opportunities, I was really fortunate to pursue. So.
Yeah. Wow. That's so exciting. I mean, it's so interesting to hear how people get into conducting because it's so many different things. But one thing that our former music director Gerhardt I think he sat in a trumpet section in the back at orchestra rehearsal, and he wouldn't call himself a trumpet. But he always said, he's like, I sat for the first, it was all band, and then was in an orchestra for the first time. And he said, it was like I'd only been coloring with the box of crayons that comes with 12. And then suddenly someone gave me a 64 pack.
Oh, I love it.
And I like that. This, like sitting in an open rehearsal of like a really great orchestra where they're playing something, I think that kind of pivotal moment is for so many young musicians a thing that really just sparks something. And even if they never go into music, it definitely sparks something for people.
It does. I know I'm in full agreement. Being in the trumpet section, you learn, you watch, you observe a lot because you're not playing, so you learn things about conductors like I want to make sure I don't do that. This what he's doing or what she's doing is bringing out a lot from the orchestra. I learned just by watching. You don't even need formal conducting lessons. Some of the best conductors really have no training, but they played in orchestras. Yeah. And sometimes that's the best education you can receive is just sitting there observing and, you learn oftentimes what not to do.
Sure.
And you try to say I'm not going to bring that.
No, that's not for me.
No.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, so just, that's such a great overview of you as a musician, but a couple of just rapid fire questions to get to know just you as a person, maybe some musical things in here. So if you could only listen to one piece of music for the rest of your life, what would you choose?
Ooh, that's a good one.
It's a horrible question, I know.
No, it's great, but there's so many. I would say I'm a huge fan of the music of Mahler, and it would be it'd have to be the Second Symphony of Mahler.
Very good.
Very moved. One of the first pieces I ever heard as a young musician.
Yeah, special place there. Do you have a favorite place in the world?
I love being by the ocean.
Okay,
I'm
cool.
a beach person.
Nice.
I love anywhere where there's a beautiful ocean and hearing the waves. I love that.
Very
I just
fun.
love it. Yeah.
Okay, are you more of a morning person or more like a night owl?
Definitely a night owl.
Now, okay.
And this as a musician, we have to be on.
You kind of have to force yourself to be, even if you're not.
Yeah. And although I'm becoming more of a morning person because we have a 7-month-old at home.
Congratulations.
So thank you. Yeah. So that's like forcing me to get up when he gets up, which is usually 5 or 6 a.m.
It's early. Oh my gosh. Okay. Do you have a favorite food?
Let's see. I'm a big foodie.
Okay.
Favorite food. I can't go wrong with like a good ribeye steak.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
I'm a big, with either a cold beer or even a glass of wine.
Nice.
Of red wine.
Nice. Okay. And if you weren't a conductor, what do you think you'd be doing?
Yeah, so I love this because I can't imagine life without music. Sure. But the fun answer would be I'm a true I love true crime documentaries.
Ooh,
I'm a big fan of them.
Same. I'm such a true crime junkie.
Dateline, all of them.
Yes, all of it.
I would love to be some sort of like detective who
solves
these forensic detective or something along those lines.
Oh my gosh, I listen to so many podcasts.
Yes,
true crime podcasts.
We have to trade lists.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I've been listening to My Favorite Murder for like 10 years, and they just turned 10 years old, and I'm like, oh my god, I've been listening to this since they started.
Need to
oh my
listen
god,
to that because I haven't listened to that one yet.
Yeah, it's two comedians that they're two women who are like, the way that we deal with the fact that the world is really hard and bad things happen is through comedy, but they also have done a really great job of kind of sharing stories, especially of women who have been victims of violence, but also marginalized communities, because a blonde girl, something happens to her, she's all over the news. Right. Black girl, something happens, no one wants to talk about it. And so I think they've done a really good job of educating themselves and the community. And but I love true crime.
I'm so glad to hear
I'm
that.
Why do I? This is such a weird fascination.
And every road trip, I just turn on true crime podcasts.
Yeah, it's like, and then I'm alone in a hotel room. Like, this is fine.
Yeah, that's right. I know. My wife is like, oh boy, what is your obsession with this?
Like, don't worry about it.
Don't worry.
Don't worry about it. It's okay.
Don't worry. Yep.
My fiance will come. I'll be listening to something. He comes. He's like, what are you listening to? I'm like, don't worry about it. It's okay. Exactly. It's totally fine. Oh my god.
The more realistic answer would probably be a history teacher. I like history, but I
also great.
Nothing wrong against being a detective, right?
Oh my gosh, so
what
fun.
An interesting life that would be.
I can't imagine. Yeah. Okay. Well, so I'm so glad you kind of shared all of the how you first interaction with the symphony orchestra, kind of what led you to become a conductor. Is there a moment when you became a conductor, you're conducting an orchestra, where you really felt like you'd done it? Or is that like, I don't know, being a conductor, I feel like it's constantly, it's a really hard job because there's a million people always giving you feedback. It's so much about, that everyone on stage has their own idea of what should happen. Sure. But there needs to be one idea. So it's like this balancing act of, I want to make sure I'm honoring everyone on stage, but also I have an idea of what should happen. Has there ever been a moment you're like, I figured it out, I've done it? Or is
Probably not, honestly. I know, I'm learning every day. We all are, even the great conductors. I think, a lot of them have said, we learn every day. Bernstein was, notorious for being this big personality, but he always said I'm still, discovering new things in the score and trying to bring those to life with the musicians. I was fortunate that, early in my career, I mentioned Lake George. I think you have to really be a creator and be an innovator. And I started a music festival that really was great for me because it taught me so much. Yeah. It didn't only teach me musical things there's not much risk because you're in Lake George. It's not like I'm conducting this in a big city where there's all this pressure. Now granted, you're with wonderful musicians who are really accomplished. We bring in really young hotshot musicians who are training at different conservatories and looking to pursue a full-time profession. So being able to bring works to life in a kind of a low stress environment was good for me. Okay. And also fundraising, learning how to talk to an audience, donors. Yeah. We had to raise all that money ourselves. Yeah. So, that was just a great learning experience. And that led me to, I think, a lot of other opportunities. Yeah. But I think another thing is that I'll never forget is stepping on the podium with the New York Philharmonic for the first time. I had an opportunity to audition for their assistant conductor position in 2015. And I grew up with that orchestra. And, when I got that email, I said, wow, I got very emotional. And I said, I can't believe I'm going to be conducting the New York Philharmonic, even if it's only 20 minutes. Sure. Of
That's
different
great.
repertoire.
We've done it.
Yeah. And, I felt like that was a big accomplishment. Like I achieved a goal there.
Yeah.
And I received, really helpful feedback from that experience.
Nice.
And that really taught me what it takes to conduct some of the best musicians in the world.
Yeah.
What you need to do and how to kind of, you always have to be the music. And that's the key I've learned. You could have the best technique, but if you're not passionate and really immersed in this music, you're not going to communicate the right things to the musicians.
Yeah.
And that's what they need. You don't want to overdo it. You don't want to be a control freak, which, we're on the podium, we're barking orders.
Yeah.
You don't want to do that. You don't want to talk too much. So all these experiences taught me, and I'm, we're still learning every day, but it was a great experience to essentially, as I say, it's like you're driving a Corvette or like this fancy sports car. You just got to let them go, yet be in control.
Yeah.
And it was an amazing experience.
Yeah.
But those two come to mind in terms of like really special moments as a conductor.
Yeah. That's, I don't know. I think it's such a hard thing for people who've never played in an orchestra to even get a glimpse of what it's like to be a part of an experience like that. I mean, a lot of people played in band or orchestra as a kid, and there's like, I think that's a snapshot of it, but it's so interesting when there's people, it's like everyone, it's their livelihood. And I think even for our Canton audience, a lot of those of people who come to our concerts don't realize that our musicians they aren't with us full time, right? We're not a full time orchestra. Right. However, they are professional full time musicians in their lives, and it is such a different experience to have that as your workplace. That is your work. That is your work, and it's like, how do we create a nice work environment? And it's a very complicated thing, and the conductor is such a huge part of that.
Yep.
And it's a very, very weird life that we as organizations have, and it's very hard to communicate to people what it's like to actually be in an orchestra. I don't know. Do you have any do you have maybe a short phrase or a couple of words that to you, that's what it's like to be on the podium for people who have never or may never experience it? Yeah.
I mean, and speaking of being on the podium, it's so funny is so many people I think just want to try it. Every year we do for our Peppermint in Evansville, a holiday pops concert. We call it Peppermint Pops.
Cute.
we bring young people on the stage, 5 to 7 year olds primarily, to conduct the orchestra and Sleigh Ride by Leroy Anderson. It's amazing because these kids, they're very shy, a lot of them. They don't say much, but when they come off the podium, some of them are in tears of joy. The emotion is really, it moves them. And it was beautiful to see that. It really was to see the effect that making music can have on a young person.
Yes.
And that was just something that, sticks with me and realize, okay, what we're doing is important here.
Yeah.
But when you're on the podium, I always say it's you feel the energy of the audience. I think first off, I feel that. It's interesting, even though my back is turned to them.
It's so the audience is so important. They're so important, and I don't think they realize how important they are.
The hardest thing was COVID, the pandemic, when a piece would end and there was just silence because no one was in the concert hall.
Yeah,
it was so hard on us musicians, as you know. And that really made me appreciate all those moments where we're able to make music. And with audiences, we feel the energy, we feel their excitement, and that leads to a better performance every time. Every time.
Yeah.
And I love it when, even if they applaud between movements.
It's fine.
It's great because it shows they appreciate it.
Yes.
And it means something to them. So I will never be annoyed by any means if someone starts clapping in between movements. I know that's kind of a debate somewhat.
Sure.
But it means they're really enjoying the experience. And that's why we do this, is for to create an event, not just a concert, but to create an immersive experience. And so audience, we feel it, seeing the musicians. I always try to make it a goal when I'm on the podium to have eye contact with all the musicians. So it's not just them giving the music. It's a conversation between the conductor and the musicians, and making sure that we're, it sounds a little cheesy, a musical family. That's what we try to create is experience, but we want to make sure that it's not just me giving the orders. It's like chamber music. We're a big chamber ensemble.
Big, yeah, which is such a hard thing to do when there's so many people on stage.
I know. And limited rehearsal, of course.
Right. In February, we're doing Alpine Symphony. Like 99 people on stage. It's like, yeah, we're a chamber. We're a chamber group, everyone. There's 100 of us here, but we're a chamber group. Oh my gosh.
That will be something.
It'll be fun. Jerry Lynn Johnson is coming in to conduct it. I love her so much. And I'm just like, oh God, I could not be her doing that. I could not be any of you guys doing that. I'm like, I don't need this. I don't need this pressure.
And the wind machine on stage.
Oh, so much fun.
It's such a fun piece.
It's such a fun piece. Oh my gosh. But okay, so speaking of like making big experiences and putting on big events, a lot of anytime I'm reading a bio about you and everything, they always start with Indian American conductor, right? So they always talk about your heritage and your heritage. You've done a lot of cool things with Bollywood, and specifically this season you worked with the Chicago Sinfonietta with Symphony Masala. I was wondering if you could talk about that project and that performance and how that came about, and maybe a little bit about like, how has your heritage always kind of informed your musical experiences? Because orchestra and Indian music typically have not gone together. More so recently, there's some really cool fusions of music and understanding the different types of music with quarter tones and all of that fun stuff and the Tala system and all that cool stuff. Anyway, I love Indian music. It's very fun. So I'm interested about this project, but just, how did it come about?
I'm so happy to hear that you're into like Indian music.
Oh my gosh, so fun.
A lot of people would never imagine Western classical music being fused with Indian music, for that matter. And so, yes, my father is Indian. He's from New Delhi. He came to this country in the late 60s for graduate school. Cool. And my mom's American. She grew up in New York and in Queens. And, it's interesting. A lot of times when for instance, with Evansville Philharmonic, when I was named music director there, I was referred to as the first music director of color. And I thought that was interesting because I never, thought of myself as like, with that designation. And they were saying, they're so happy and that's such a good thing. But, the fact that there needs to be a lot of work there still needs to be a lot of work done in the classical music world, especially with diversity. And, hearing that made me realize like, I want to celebrate my culture and bring this amazing art form.
Okay.
So anyway, the thing with Symphony Masala, which is a Bollywood concert, is it started 5 years ago. And I was the music director of Symphony New Hampshire at the time. And one of I believe she was a board member at the time or a big supporter of the orchestra. Mm-hmm. She's an Indian lady from Bombay, I believe. She grew up there. She's been in New Hampshire for the last 30 years or so. And a state representative too. Oh, cool. And she said, Roger, being an Indian American conductor, are you into Indian music? And I said, I grew up listening to some Bollywood. My dad would always have it on the TV. Mm-hmm. He would always have the recordings of...
Bollywood is also, I don't think people realize how big Bollywood is. It's bigger than Hollywood. Okay, it's
bigger than Hollywood.
Huge.
It's
huge.
Enormous. So many movies have been produced every year. And she said, I would love to talk to you about this idea of maybe... doing a concert of Bollywood music. And at the time, it's funny, I was already thinking about how I could bring like Indian music to this orchestra because there was a piece by, there was a tabla concerto that I really wanted to do, which I'll get into.
Yes.
But when she said Bollywood, I said, okay, but we need singers and we need, arrangements, of course. So she was very close with Indian Bollywood singer who lives in Boston.
Okay.
Anuradha Juju Palakorti. She is a Indian Grammy-nominated composer, singer, I should say. And she's also from Bombay, lives in Boston. And she, there was a meeting that was set up, dinner at Lata's house, who's the state representative. And we had a great chat about Bollywood and bringing it to life with an orchestra and how we were going to accomplish this. So it was like a 2-year process.
How fun.
It was a 2-year process.
Fun.
And the goal from the beginning, and this is what's so interesting about this project, is first off, there are no Bollywood shows happening really in this country with orchestra. Mm-hmm. There are a few in Europe, in London, and primarily like in the UK. Okay. Because there's a big Indian population.
Indian population, yeah.
The thing is, they use Indian classical instruments in a lot of their performances. So we decided, let's do a show of just Western instruments playing Bollywood music.
Okay.
And this would include the 2 singers, a full orchestra, a rhythm section. And what happened was we were in touch with a number of different arrangers from India who arranged these for orchestra. We had a reading session back in June of 2022, I believe it was. The concert was in October 2022. So we just wanted to try these arrangements out. The orchestra, this is brand new to them. None of them had ever played Bollywood. I was going to say,
that's very different than what they're probably trained to do.
Like all the rhythms, all of the notation, even though it was Western notation, it looked different in terms of the effects and the extended techniques you would have to use. The reading, we learned so much. There a lot of work needed to be done. Okay. And it's nothing to fault some of these wonderful arrangers, but they had never written for a Western orchestra.
That's so interesting. Yeah. That's so interesting.
So I had to bring on board a dear friend. His name's DJ Spar. He's a composer based in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Teaches at LSU, and he's done a lot of arrangements for rock concerts, jazz concerts, you name it. He's done it. And I said, hey, do you want to try your stab at Bollywood and create some Bollywood arrangements? So we took the arrangements we had done in the reading session. He looked over those and completely transformed them in a way which was really efficient and highly enjoyable for the classical musicians in the orchestra. And sure enough, it was a sold-out concert in October of 2020. I think it was 22. And over 700 people, all ethnicities, not just Indian people, but our Western classical audience was there. They loved it. And since then, we've done 4 more shows.
Okay, cool.
So we went to Chicago, as you mentioned, Chicago Symphony. What a wonderful orchestra,
Great organization. Great organization. I love that organization.
And it's the most diverse orchestra in America, which is really, that's a really neat designation. Like so many interesting, the makeup is wonderful and a lot of highly skilled musicians who do a lot of contemporary music. So we did 2 shows of Symphony Masala there.
Fun.
And then we just did 2 weeks ago a show in Santa Monica with my orchestra there. And what was so lovely about that performance is we added dancers. Everyone kept saying, Roger, when you think Bollywood,
you got to get all the dancers in there.
Dancers,
massive
you think
dancers.
Colors and dancers. So we had 5 dancers, and they joined us on 4 of the 15 pieces. Audience loved it. It added a whole new layer to the music. And the musicians, most importantly, they got something out of it. They said, I never played Bollywood. I love this music. I would love to do more of it. And we recorded it. And also, there were super titles above the orchestra, so people understood what was being sung.
Okay. Is it in Hindi?
Yeah, it's all in Hindi.
Okay, cool.
So it's, and I'll
that
be
would
honest,
make sense.
And I'm not a Hindi speaker. My father, and I say, Dad, why didn't you teach me? He never taught me Hindi. But it's been a learning experience for me too.
That's so
learning
cool.
what these songs are about, and just the culture and kind of the history behind them. So Anuradha is incredible. She's really been a great collaborator, and we're hoping to bring this now to other orchestras around the world.
How fun is that?
Yeah.
That's such a fun. It's so at the beginning you talked about when in Evansville, they're like, you're the first music director of color. And is that something that like, it didn't even cross your mind really until it happened? Is it like in your bio, did it not used to say Indian American and now it does because you're like, I want to embrace this?
That's right. That's a good point you raised. It's like I probably added that a few seasons ago because I think it is important. And, I think a big thing for me is really embracing my culture and really saying, like, I'm proud to be an Indian American. And I think hopefully it shows that orchestras are diverse and audiences of all ages, of all ethnicities should be allowed and welcomed in the concert hall. So speaking of Indian music, we're talking Bollywood. I do want to mention an incredible piece I discovered is a tabla concerto by Dinuk Wijaratne and Sandeep Das. If you don't know Sandeep Das, incredible. Silk Road Ensemble. He played with Yo-Yo Ma for years. Indian, of course, from New Delhi. And he trained there. He came to the States, I think, when he was in his late 20s, maybe. And we've done this piece 3 times. And what's lovely about it is it's Indian classical music with Western classical music. Fuses them together. And every time I've done it, audience has said, they've said to me, first off, I didn't know what this instrument was, the tabla.
It's such a fun
It's a
instrument.
percussion instrument.
Very cool.
And he's so virtuosic, and he explains beautifully what you're going to hear. So before we do the performance, he takes 5 minutes to demonstrate the different drums.
Oh, cool.
Kind of the notation, how he interprets this, and then we go into the piece.
Fun.
I think audiences appreciate
Yeah.
that. And another name I want to throw out there who I love dearly, her music, is Rina Esmail, Indian-American, based in Los Angeles.
Okay.
I did a piece of hers called Teen Morty for string orchestra, and it's meant to be, she incorporates different ragas and things into the music.
Fun.
And it's very improvisatory. And as someone who is a jazz musician, I appreciate improvisation.
Yeah.
And Rina is just getting all these commissions around the country, which shows to me, it tells me orchestras are really, embracing new music. They're embracing diversity. And it makes me proud, to say like, Indian music is now almost sort of at the forefront in terms of some of the Western orchestra traditions that orchestras are programming it now.
That's really cool.
So, I love that.
I don't know tons and tons and tons about Indian music. I know a little bit and I like listening to it. And I've, in conservatory, you learn about, ragas and different counting patterns because they're very long and they take a long time to get through. And the singing is completely different, and quarter tones and the way you have to think, it's all very different. And so it's fun to think about how that can be infused into kind of a Western classical tradition.
It's funny you mentioned that because of that, some of these concerts are like the Indian classical concerts can go on for hours.
I was going to say, they just keep going. They will not stop. It'll just keep happening.
Go to like 3 or 4 in the morning. We can't do that with the orchestra, unfortunately.
There's like, we have a union and we have to be done by a certain time. Yes.
But I will say, what's great about the Bollywood concert that we did, Symphony Masala, is the audience is a part of it. They are cheering. When they hear the vocals of a certain song, right away they know that, and they start singing along. And I think this concert really allows audiences to be comfortable. They feel welcomed, and they're allowed to let loose a little bit.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. They're allowed to really enjoy it.
Yeah,
and it's a learning experience for those who don't know Bollywood. I talk a little bit about the background of each song, what to expect, and I think it's a really engaging concert experience, I would say.
Yeah.
Really. So
that's so fun.
We'll see what happens with it, but it's been really it's brought in a lot of joy and excitement. So
with this like coming to the forefront of the orchestra space and being something that you're doing a lot, is there something else that's kind of happening in the orchestra space right now that really excites you, that is something new, or just something that you've seen recently that has made you excited about our field and what we have going on?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things happening in terms of like new music that really excites me.
Yeah.
So one of those things is I love the fact the Louisville Orchestra and Teddy Abrams are doing a lot of great things. I think I'm really impressed by their programming, by how he's such a musical ambassador to that community. And they have something called the LO Creative Corps.
Okay.
And it brings in a composer to commission new works over a period of like 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
They house the composers. They have them do outreach. They have them go to rehearsals. Not many orchestras would fund this sort of project, I feel, or take that chance. And I love the fact that they're taking that risk to say, we're devoted to bringing new music to this community, and it's not really a risk. They deserve to be heard, this new crop of composers coming, because it's so hard to find opportunities as a composer. I love the fact that the industry is trending more towards really highlighting composers of all ethnicity, composers of color, female composers, you name it. Yeah. And in Evansville, we're creating a really neat project. Actually, it's called it's a young composers composition competition. Cool. Yeah. And we're doing it with our resident string quartet and consortium. Fun. So usually it's with full orchestra, but we decided let's do. It's an unusual instrumentation. It's a resident quartet along with oboe, flute, percussion, and horn. Okay. Can you name chamber? Okay. No. I was thinking, can you name any repertoire with that instrumentation? I don't know. Probably find something out there, there's not much. So we decided it's not only a great educational opportunity for the composers, but it would give this ensemble repertoire that they could play for years to come. Yeah. And it's new music. It's music that I think deserves to be heard. So we're, we already, I think, have 80, 90 applications, which is
wow.
wonderful. And
that's
the deadline's
so good.
I think end of February.
Wow.
So we still have a lot of time.
That's so much. Oh my gosh.
We'll do the premiere next October.
Okay.
So, this coming October.
Very, very cool.
And giving opportunities. And I think that has a lot to do with education. So many orchestras are doing great educational initiatives now, like expanding family concerts and doing new, when we think educational programming, we think a lot about the Britain Young Person's Guide to the Orchestra, which I love. We're doing it obviously this weekend.
Yeah.
Peter and the Wolf by Prokofiev. But there are a lot of these types of works for kids being composed today by composers who are really at the forefront of the industry. Yeah. My good friend Paul Dooley wrote a piece called The Conductor Spellbook, which is an introduction.
I know that piece. It's fun. It's fun. It's so fun.
It's a great way.
I used to be our manager of education before I was CEO. So all of the things. Yeah.
I love the fact that orchestras are doing more contemporary music in the educational realm. I think that's really important.
Yeah, that's something that we've been thinking a lot about too, of what can we be doing. But we collaborate a lot with our ballet, the Canton Ballet, and all of our educational programs next season will be with the ballet. So everything's going to be ballet oriented as well. So that's super fun of trying to find, we've talked about commissioning new choreography and new music and all of that good stuff, which takes a lot of time and a lot of planning. You can't just write a piece over night.
It's a lot.
Unless some people can, I guess. But
Mozart,
sure. Why not?
Yeah,
okay.
Why not?
Well, kind of as we're winding down this conversation, I wonder, is anything come to your mind or recently questions that you've had about what we do or just, anything as you've been traveling around doing all these different things that has kind of sparked your curiosity or,
It's, we think about the conductor as the face of the orchestra oftentimes. Yeah. Which is, I understand for marketing purposes, that's important, but the musicians who make up the orchestra, they're the heartbeat of the orchestra. They're the ones who really have devoted years of time to coming to rehearsals, making sure that they love playing. They're the ones who make the sounds. Yeah. Let's be honest. Is there a way to give musicians more empowerment in the process? I think it's getting better. I think it's getting better. I know, there's a lot of meetings we have about ways to encourage, more collaboration. Yeah. And I'm glad. I think it's starting to happen more. I would love to figure out ways we can do more of that. Yeah. One thing I wanted to mention is in Evansville, we do this musician's choice concert, which I would love to see other orchestras maybe try this. Yeah. Where we have them program one classics concert every season. And there's they email me all these pieces and I work with them to create a program and they actually introduce the piece from the stage. Nice. Which is it gives them a voice, not just me introducing from the podium, which I enjoy doing, but I think the audience deserves to know about these wonderful artists on the stage. Yeah, that's something, we've been talking about this a lot, and there's a lot of organizations that are doing cool things. There's a couple of things we've tried. We have a music advisory committee, so all of our programs have the lens of our musicians on them, and it's been a really kind of enlightening process with that. But even just how the question of how do you make musicians feel engaged, especially for our per service regional orchestras where they're only with us sometimes 5 times a year, sometimes even less. Our third trumpet player, he's here, 2-3 times a year. There's people who we don't see very often. So how do you make them feel engaged and feel welcome and a part of the process and a part of the organization? And we were talking earlier, Sarah and I were talking in my office earlier about the social media aspect of everything and the Minnesota Orchestra and other orchestras that are doing a really good job of talking to the musicians and getting their feedback their marketing is unbelievable.
They're killing it. And so they'll mic up a musician during rehearsal. Yeah, you talk about sports. Oh my gosh, it's so funny. It's so good. And I'm we have to do this. We were even talking about, our pre-concert safety announcement. Andy, our artistic operations manager was at the Cincinnati Symphony. They have a musician do it. So they say like, hey, I'm so-and-so. I'm a second violinist. Turn your phones off. Like, you know, like, and they're like, they do the safety announcement. So like little things like that could be really powerful and cool.
That's definitely a great thing to do.
I'm like, we should definitely try that. So we're going to see if we can get some musicians to pre-record our safety announcement for us, and we can rotate through them. And, but yeah, I think it's such a hard thing to do.
Tough.
How do you do it? Yeah.
And you know, even little things like post-concert receptions, like it really is important, I think, when musicians come to those and really engage with the donors and the board members and thank them for their support. Yeah. And I think, you know, I understand a lot of times, a lot of them may have to run, but it is so important to show appreciation to everyone, and then maybe even do some sort of, I don't know, a pre-concert chamber performance if they're.
We've been talking about that. We've been talking about doing that. We have. I don't know if we can. Well, but
you know, the program it does take a lot of stamina.
But we've talked about that because I think our musicians would be interested in that to do that.
All musicians love chamber music.
I know. I love chamber music. I love chamber music.
I'm jealous as a brass player. I wish we had some of the string repertoire.
I know. But I'm a bassoonist, so I'm like, okay.
There's some great.
There's some really great quintets out there, but.
But how can we figure out a way to really engage the musicians in a way that doesn't just have them playing in a concert, but also really highlighting them as people, as musicians, and of course solo opportunities. I know, you know, I'm sure Canton Symphony has featured the principals. Yeah. You know, in New Hampshire, we did one of the Mozart Sinfonia Concertants for woodwind, so we got to feature all our principals.
That's fun.
That was a lot of fun.
Those are fun. Yeah.
And Valerie Coleman, speaking of new music, she has an incredible, it's called, it's about women who've made an impact in the world, whether it be a politician, a sports star. I forget the title, but it's a woodwind quintet.
I know the piece. The name is also escaping me.
Yeah. And we were actually going to do that in Evansville, but she hadn't finished the piece. She was making corrections. Okay. So we were going to probably do it a later season. But again, it gives an opportunity to our musicians to be the stars. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you've recommended a lot of things. And usually I ask guests to give our audience a recommendation, and I feel like you've done so many, but are there any other recommendations? It can be a piece of music, and can be whatever. But
off the top of my head, well, I always say music needs to be a reflection of our society. And you think about that, it could go in so many different ways. So for a lot of people, you know, there's so many different topics that are in our society. One of them, let's just talk about, you know, the idea of friendship. I mean, you think friendship and being around people, Elgar's Enigma Variations, that's what it's all about. You think about the current issues with climate change. Great piece by John Luther Adams called Become Ocean. I love movie music, cinema. You know, all of the John Williams scores are fantastic, but especially Jurassic Park, it always does it for me. Yes, it's so good, that opening horn solo. Yeah. And also, as someone who really appreciates video games, gamer music, there are so many great pieces out there of video game music. One of them I'd recommend is by Austin Wintory, who was the first ever Grammy-nominated gamer composer, video game composer,
cool.
For his score Journey. And I highly recommend that to everyone because it is so melancholic. There's uplifting moments. It's very zen, and I love that. Wow. And he's a dear friend. He's become a close friend. I've conducted his work many times, and he comes out sometimes if I'm doing a video game concert, and he'll conduct his piece.
Nice.
And that's really special. And if you haven't, I'm a big fan of Radiohead. I don't know if we have any listeners who listen to, you know, Radiohead. Nice. But there's a piece by Sarah Kirkland Snyder called Penelope. It's a song cycle in 14 or 15 movements. It's 60 minutes. And it has to do with the story of the Iliad and the Greek tragedy, you know, the Greek story. But it has a theme of PTSD and veterans. And I think that's really important. Wow. This idea of, you know, mental space and, you know, this idea that, you know, this could bring peace to a lot of different people. Yeah. It's an incredible work. Wow. Highly recommend it.
Oh my gosh.
It was, I forget the Shara Worden, I think is the singer. Okay. And you can find it on YouTube. Fun. And I've done it 5 or 6 times. Oh, wow. Now. I bring it everywhere I can. And it has electronics, and it has It's a 13-member ensemble, so it's a chamber ensemble.
Cool.
But it has remnants of Radiohead and Bjork and electro pop and, of course, classical. It's like a modern day art song of Schubert.
Oh, that's so cool. Wow.
Or Schumann, for that matter. But it's really fantastic.
Wow. That's awesome.
Mental health is the overriding, I guess, theme, you could say, of that piece, which is so important in our time.
Yeah, absolutely. So. Well, I feel like we've talked about so many things, but the one question that we ask everybody is, of course, this podcast is called Orchestrating Change. And so we just ask everybody, how do we orchestrate change? Yeah. Very open-ended.
Yeah. I think as someone is a musician who's conducted, everything from professional groups to youth to, classical war horses like Mahler to Broadway to video game music, I think it's important that we educate, and music education comes to mind. How do we introduce people at a very young age the impact that a symphony orchestra can have, and how do we bring them to understand, like, this is some of the most amazing music ever composed, some of these geniuses, Beethoven, Mozart. How do we get them to really be immersed in that culture? Yeah. I always wonder ways to do that. And as someone who's an educator, I really love working with young people. And I want to get more young people into the concert hall. Yeah. And it has to do with programming. It has to do with making, I guess, the concert experience welcoming, making it an event. But how can we do that for not just so-called pops concerts, but how can we do it for our classics, MasterWorks, that, bringing in people, and I say young people because I wish I could see more young people in the concert hall, people who are, and also people who look like our world or society, diversity. Yeah. And I think we were bouncing ideas off one another, but there's still so much work to be done.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the biggest thing. I would love to see us really offer people who maybe can't afford a ticket a way to, come in and at least experience it. Maybe that's open rehearsals, seeing how it all comes together. We've offered free student tickets in Evansville, which has helped, but there's still work to be done. Yeah. And I think the more we can do of that, the better. Yeah. And making it as welcoming and as open as possible. Yeah. And that includes repertoire of all types, not just the war horses, but balancing what is a living museum with new music. Yeah. I think that's the key, but we'll see.
We'll see. Hey, it's a work in progress, and it's there's so many great things happening, a lot that still needs to happen. But Roger, thank you so much for chatting with me today and for being a part of our podcast, and looking forward to the concert. And if you're listening and you were at the concert, I hope you enjoyed it. And thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Orchestrating Change is a production of the Canton Symphony Orchestra. Our theme music was composed by Eric Gould and performed by Derek Snyder and Tim Adams. Our video and audio editor is Sarah Daler. Thank you for listening, and see you next time.